Hey everyone, welcome back to Pretending with Dice. As always, I'm your host and game master, AJ. A real quick intro this time around, and then we'll get into our recap. Firstly, I'm really happy to announce the storyline that we're going to be going with following this current Call of Cthulhu storyline, which still has a couple of episodes left, so don't worry about that. And that is that we're going to be heading back to our homebrew D&D world of Valana for a very special story featuring cast members from last year's Curse of Penance series over on Penance RPG, which I was a part of. Those of you who've listened to our previous D&D story arcs will know that we ended our last one on kind of an ambiguous sort of jump in time, and this new story is going to be set during that jump. I can't tell you any more right now, but stay tuned, more to come soon. I would just want to make a quick apology for us not putting up a bonus episode last week, as we did promise. Scheduling just sort of kind of got the best of us, and we didn't manage to get anything sorted before it was sort of too late. That being said, I am hoping to get another world-building episode out for you all next week. I don't want to make any concrete promises after missing the last one, but fingers crossed. Alright then, let's quickly recap what happened last time. So, waking on their third day in Twine-on-Sea and trying not to think too deeply about the gruesome happenings in the church on the previous day, our investigators once again set out into the town alone with their own business in mind, but not before noting in the local paper there was very little mention of what had actually happened. Madam Sway took a walk around the harbour, noting on her journey that some members of the public seemed very much on edge. While on her walk, she also spied a glimpse of the large, imposing manor house that Alistair had seen the previous day. Barnard once again made his way up to the sanitarium to visit his ailing friend Jenkins. On his way into the facility, he passed a well-dressed gentleman who he deduced must be Dr. Quarterly, the lauded owner and operator of the sanitarium itself. Inside, however, he found that his friend was in a very bad state, having just undergone a mysterious procedure. Asking at the main desk, he was told that Jenkins had been marked down for the most aggressive treatment plan that the sanitarium offers. Meanwhile, Alistair headed back into the centre of town, and after briefly trying to gauge the general mood of the populace and sort of failing, he went into the theatre itself to speak to his old family friend Abraham Foster, who would be starring in that night's performance of The Tempest. Foster had also not really heard much about what had happened in the church, but did confirm that a strange feeling had been about the town for the past several weeks, and he implored Alistair to be careful. That is pretty much where we left off, so without any further ado, let's begin today's episode. Enjoy. Okay, so each of the three of you have been about your business in the morning. Is there anything you want to do in the afternoon specifically, or shall we move on to the evening's performance?
The only thing that Barnard is fussed about right now is if I can acquire a bottle of gin somewhere, that would be ideal.
Yeah, okay. All right, let's say... So you find your way back from the sanitarium then and head into town and find your way to the grocery store. Fairly small. It's a few doors down from the pub that you and Alistair, and Madam Sway were at the previous day. Walking in, you hear the sound of a small bell ringing above the door, and behind the desk is a sort of middle-aged man, fairly big moustache. Looks up as you come in. Afternoon, sir. What can I do for you?
Good afternoon. I was looking for a bottle of gin.
Gin. How much are you looking for? We don't tend to keep it out on the shelves. Little ones running in, grubby fingers, taking our stuff. That's none of your business, of course. That is to say, what amount of alcohol would you require, sir?
Well, I'd be looking to... let me think, actually.
Get nicely sloshed.
Trying to think and well, yeah, that was the first thought that came to mind. Well, something to fill a hip flask.
Fill a hip flask. Oh, yeah, no, we can do that, no problem. 1 second. Disappears through a side door, leaving you alone in the main shop for a moment. While you're standing there, you hear the tinkling of the bell behind you, and in walks a... You'd put him... It's tough to know his age, but he does look a little old. But quite well-dressed man. Wearing he's got a bow tie. Sort of... I mean, if you... Without asking him, he looks kind of dressed like a butler. And he walks up beside you to sort of stand in a queue for the counter. Looking past him, you can see a car parked outside the grocer's that wasn't there when you walked in.
Mm-hmm. Okay, noting the guy then, Barnard kind of gives him a hard stare and gives him a look up and down. Does he catch his eye at all, or is this guy engaged with, I don't know, not being engaged?
He kind of briefly, you see his eyes sort of flicker towards you, but he seems fairly aloof, if you know what I mean. He's kind of pointedly not looking at you.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of a little bit, you get a kind of like a little bit like you're beneath his notice sort of feel.
Okay, well, noting that and not quite liking that's the attitude that this guy is exuding, Barnard's going to intentionally draw his attention and say, good afternoon there, sir.
Good afternoon.
What brings you into town today?
Shopping.
Quite. And Barnard tries to sort of feign a smile that's kind of like, he's got his scarf pulled up around the bottom of his chin and the smile's creeping out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he's not a pretty man, so this isn't necessarily a charming smile.
Just flash him your toothiest
That's
grin.
It. Can't really think of what to say to this guy at this point, because it feels like a slightly awkward moment.
You could say, did you see the game last night?
Did you hear about the church last night?
Do you like gin?
Did you hear what? Do you wonder what? Ask him what was going on at the church.
Okay.
Commotion.
Well, I will metagame the hell out of this then, and yes. Okay, noting that he's not engaging with the conversation still, I'm going to try and strike up about recent subjects and what have you, and turn to him and be like, so, I've not been in town for long, but it seems that there's quite the hustle and bustle around the church at the moment. Were you in town yesterday to witness the events?
I'm sure I was not. My duties engage me elsewhere.
What do you do, good boy? Good boy? Old boy. What do you do, old boy?
Good boy.
There's a lot of there's a lot of like right. Very pointed like age-related comments going each way of this. Yeah. I attend Lady Druitt at Druitt Hall.
Lady Druitt, you say? I believe I saw what I assume to be her physician leaving the sanitarium this morning.
I'm sure that is none of your business, sir.
Oh, I suppose so. And with that, Barnard's going to kind of look around for this shopkeeper who's taken quite a while with his gin at this point.
Yeah, at this point, the shopkeeper kind of, you can hear him, he starts talking before he comes out. Oh, we're running a bit low, but I found a bottle down at the bottom. And as he kind of rounds the corner and looks good, Mr. Holman, if you just give me a minute to deal with this gentleman, I'll have the usual order ready to go in just a moment. The butler sort of gives him a sort of quite curt nod and just sort of, again, is not really doesn't really look like he wants to. He's not in the mood for any long conversations. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
He's adverse to small talk.
Okay, well, noting the air in the room then, Barnard's going to give a little nod to each of the gentlemen and make his way out of the shop. Taking a moment to have a quick... I mean, this car that's parked outside, is there any way for me to look into the windows as I'm leaving the shop without being too overt? No, obviously not leaning over and kind of poking a head in or anything, but more like trying to get a glance at who's in that car, if anybody's in that car at all.
Sure, make intelligence. Actually, if you're trying to be stealthy, let's say make a stealth check.
Okie doke. Right. 93. Oh, the rolls are not with me today.
So it's been raining, and as you kind of try to sort of surreptitiously lean, you just sort of slip on the pavement and you put a hand right on the door, like to steady yourself. Luckily, though, it does appear to be empty.
Okay.
Not very stealthy, and it did make a bit, and like it's a bit of a clang as you go, dun, kind of, you basically fell into the car, like into the side of the car.
Sort of glancing around and trying to compose himself as quickly as possible, looking back towards the shop. Did anybody see that?
Make an intelligence check.
Maybe get one. 70. No, I'm not.
You can't really tell with the reflection from the front windows. You can't really see whether anybody noticed or not. Nobody comes running, but yeah, you don't know whether you were hidden or if it was like super obvious that you opened the door and basically walked into the car.
Right. Okay. Not feeling very feeling a bit foolish after all of that, and trying to pull himself together. Barnard kind of glowers to himself. Grumbles.
I mean, it's a bit tricky to be stealthy where you're walking with your cane and that as well.
But in a really tense, unpleasant mood, then he kind of wanders back off towards the lodgings to, he's going to go back to his room and have a few sips of gin to try and purge his mind of the thoughts of what he's heard about Jenkins dealing with this morning, and that brief moment of feeling like an absolute tit.
Now, I've been thinking, because I know it was a joke last time that is there a drunkenness stat, and I started scrolling to see if there was. I have been thinking that maybe there should be like an impairment thing if you guys are getting super drunk all the time. So I might just take a second to just look through my keeper rulebook to just see if there's anything mentioned on that real quick. I don't think there is, because there's nothing on your character sheet about it, but... I'm just going to pause recording and just quickly look, because I think it might be quite funny.
I think it's more than fair if you want to homebrew it and...
yeah, I just want to see if there's
give a small amount of punishment.
See if there's an official ruling, because there's quite a lot of drinking that seems to be going on in this group. And, yeah.
I just feel like Barnard's a man that needs to, like, I don't know, quench his mood sometimes.
Oh, yeah, no, don't get me wrong, I get it. Like, we've all had some experience now with what Barnard's kind of like. So, okay, so we'll just say we'll say that Barnard then knows how to handle his alcohol responsibly for the most part.
He knows how to handle his brown.
This is clear alcohol now.
I was going to say, is this you drink a lot of brown gin?
And it depends what flavouring you put in there, food colouring.
But yeah,
lump of mud in it,
Fisherman's friends.
Yeah.
Spice it up. Why not?
An old penny.
I always thought Fisherman's friend was some weird, dirty innuendo, but it turned out to be absolutely right.
Super strong mint. Yeah. I will leave it to you then to how affected you are. You can just play it in character. As opposed to making a rule and like you've been poisoned or anything. We'll just say you've had a couple of nips of gin, and how drunk you are is 100% up to you.
Well, Barnard, as you say, he's a hard-bitten man. He can deal with this stuff. So he was really going to have a couple of little swigs and just kind of sit and try to put his mind onto things other than the death of his friend and mortality and all of the questions that come with such things.
Just trying to take the edge off a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That was the one thing you really wanted to do in the afternoon.
that was the big deal. But the main point is that I've still got more gin.
That's the important part.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I think then we'll. So I'll tell you, you're refilling a hip flask and just sort of secreting it about your person. Then I take it.
Yes, yeah, stashing it in a pocket.
Yeah. Getting like a camel pack and filling it with vodka. Smuggle it into a performance. Okay, we will, I think, then just skip along to the evening. Unless you two have got anything.
No.
Nothing I can think of.
Nothing you think of? Okay. So the evening rolls around then, and you all make your way. Are you going together, or just sort of ambling down to the theatre?
I think maybe meet up outside the theatre if we don't go down together.
Yeah, I imagine we'd probably wait for each other out. 'Cause I'd imagine we'd probably wait for each other and then go in together.
Yeah. Might be a chance to discuss anything that we've seen before we go in as well.
All right, okay.
Well, perhaps we could play it where... Sorry. We've all got to have an evening meal or something before we go out to theatre, presumably. If we all were to head down to the dining room and perhaps catch each other's eyes across the dining hall, that would be an opportunity to have a nice conversation and a catch-up.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to do that.
That works.
All right, so it's 7 o'clock at the theatre, so let's just say early evening, 5:30, we'll kind of just amble down to sort of look for... I mean, what do we call that? Dinner or afternoon tea or whatever, and yeah.
Supper.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. And the two other people that you've seen at breakfast times at the lodgings are not there for this meal. Apparently off elsewhere, but Mrs. Kendall is more than happy to rustle up some food for you all. So, I mean, do you care what you eat, or...?
No.
No.
As long as it hasn't got mushrooms.
Okay, we'll hold the mushrooms on the... is that a character choice, or is that a personal...
That's both. I can't stomach mushrooms, they do things to me.
And neither can Alistair.
No, yeah.
Side note then, remove mushroom monsters from game.
Indeed.
Yeah. So, okay, you are all in the dining room then. I will leave any discussion up to you as food is brought, and yes.
So as we're all eating, Barnard's going to kind of look around the table and break the silence and inquire as to what everybody's been doing for the day. So I've spent the morning with my friend Jenkins, and he seems a little worse for wear. Unfortunately, he's undergone some sort of procedure, and I fear he may not be joining us for the performance this evening.
Well, that's a shame.
Oh.
Yes, I saw his what I assume to be his doctor leaving this morning, and I heard mention of a Lady Druitt, who seems to be some prominent figure nearby, but I couldn't really gather anything more of who she is and what she does. But the doctor seemed to be taking her health into a greater account than perhaps the patients at the sanitarium.
Sounds a bit fishy to me.
Surely they wouldn't put one person above a whole. I'm assuming the sanctum is pretty full, is it?
I can't say that I investigated far further than my friend's room, but given he's a man who fought in the war, I should expect that he gets the utmost treatment, and some woman sitting at home in her house, so I've little interest in what's going on with her, and I should think that any doctor worth his salt would be putting his attention where it's most valuable.
Well, we'd all think that, but as we all know, money talks in this new world since the war. Perhaps this Lady Druitt has got the funds to afford such rigorous care round the clock.
Yes,
I'm not saying that, of course, that Jenkins doesn't deserve the best treatment, but it's just the way the world is these days.
I assume she's the one that lives at the large manor near the harbour.
Well, the one that I walked past the other day.
Oh, did you see it too?
Yes, my it was the second day here. I went for a walk and got quite up close to it. I didn't venture too far up to it, but it does sort of stick out like a sore thumb on the headland.
An awful lot of the people in the way seemed off, tense. And then others seemed regular, normal. Something's not right. And the more I think I stay here, the more I'm beginning to notice things. Just, I don't know, does anyone else?
I've been feeling quite similar, actually. I managed to speak with my friend Abraham at the theatre earlier this morning, and he was completely oblivious to what went on in the church yesterday. Had absolutely no idea that anything had happened. He didn't know about the verger, about the crime scene, or anything involving the police presence in the area, and walking through the street today, no one was talking about it. Not that I could pick up on. No newspapers of any kind had anything on them. All I could see was village fete. Just exactly what we saw on the paper this morning, Barnard. Do you remember?
Yes. I've seen very little evidence of anybody reacting to what we saw yesterday. Although, as you say, there's perhaps a tension in the town. It does seem incongruous that these people would not be reacting quite. We've seen such things. It's terrible, really. But nothing from anybody local? No. This is strange.
No, indeed. And Abraham was shocked at the news.
Blind and deaf they seem.
Okay, so let's just say, you're all caught up then. You have a sort of light meal before your trip to the theatre.
Sans mushroom.
With sans mushrooms, of course, yeah. And, sort of, other than that, I would say small talks made otherwise, yeah. And the three of you make your way along the road down back into the town, the way that you've gone several times before, to the theatre. The front of which is now lit up, like you haven't seen it before. Fair number of people seem to be making their way inside. It looks like in the sort of entranceway cafe area that you all had a conversation in the previous day. A bit of a sort of reception taking place prior to the performance. There's a sort of, you can hear the clink of glasses. One or two sort of quite hurried-looking sort of waiters walking around with small trays of sort of light snacks and such, and there's a sort of a bar to one side where the previous day you'd just had did you order coffee? I'm trying to remember. You were in the...
Yeah, I think we had coffee.
Yeah, that's now been sort of converted briefly into a sort of bar area. A lot of people, I'd say a fair number of people milling around. Yeah. On the lookout for anyone, or just hanging around awkwardly by the door? I mean, I know there's a middle ground between those two, but just giving some options.
We're just. I think we're sort of staying in group and just making our way through, waiting for the doors to open.
Everybody look casual.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're kind of like huddled, not kind of huddled together, but like observing in our own way the room and the people, but like occasionally like mentioning noticeable things, like that person over there, or I can imagine that Sway's like picking out all the tent people and being like,
okay, well, if that's what you're trying to do, make another psychology check for me then.
Okay. D100.
Yeah. It was under 20, wasn't it, for psychology?
Yeah.
Oh, under 10, sorry. 13.
Oh.
13. That's not too bad. I mean, it's not you haven't got the critical success that you had last time, but yeah, you do notice a couple of people who seem to be maybe not in as good cheer as they might have been for a night out of the theatre, but they're there regardless. Mostly though, people seem to be in fairly high spirits and sort of as a sort of good-natured anticipation. You know, it's not a sort of tension. You know what I mean? They seem excited to be there, sort of thing.
Are they waiters? Are they staff? Are they...
There's a couple of waiters and stuff. I mean, the doors to the auditorium themselves are closed at the moment. But, there's a server behind the bar. There's a couple of waiters sort of moving around with some snacks on it. You feel like this was probably just like an opening night reception as a sort of like, our big first hurrah sort of thing. But there's a fair few sort of people waiting to go in, basically.
As we're one sort of looking around the room and everything, is there anybody, and I suppose probably need to do a check for this, is there anybody that overtly stands out as a lady, so to speak? Is there any woman in the room that's clearly better dressed, perhaps wearing jewellery and making herself stand out in any way, shape or form?
Make an intelligence check for me. As you're looking for something specific rather than just kind of,
43, and my intelligence is 50.
50. So 43. Yeah, that is a success. But I'm afraid nobody really stands out as kind of like, oh, that's a lady or anything. And you don't see any sign of the butler that you met earlier. There's a fair few. That's not to say there's not anybody that isn't well dressed. There's a fair few sort of well dressed people see out for their night at the theatre kind of thing. But nobody that really stands out as like, oh, that's a person of great importance sort of thing.
And just before we move off from me scanning around the room, there isn't the other half of that couple that I saw up at the sanitarium, is there?
No, you don't see him.
No. Okay. That's all I need to know.
That's all you need to know. Okay. You do spot, as you're looking around, I mean, it's up to you whether you say anything. You do spot the gentleman that you talked to in the pub the previous evening, the one who seemed sort of... He was asking you for gossip, if you remember him.
Okay. Well,
I believe I'd described him as he looked like he was... it's just like he was a bit sort of... Maybe worked in an office rather than in a sort of more physical profession sort of thing.
Yes, yeah, a bit more of a professional chap.
Yes.
Okay, then noting him, I'm going to turn to the other two and sort of say, there's a gentleman over there that I met the other evening. I might take a moment to have a word with him and see if he's heard anything more of the events of yesterday.
By all means. We'll wait for you when you're done and we'll go in together.
Yes.
Wonderful. I shall return shortly. Now, with that, I'm going to stride over to the chap. And what's he doing? Is he carousing or is he...
Yeah, he seems to be... He stood... sort of next to a lady that you would guess is his wife, who is herself engaged in conversation with another lady. He just sort of stood there kind of awkwardly, holding her coat.
Oh, perfect. Well, catching the fact that he's in that third wheel situation, I'm going to sort of wander over and try and catch his eye.
Oh, he as you walk up, he sort of not starts, but he recognises you. Hello there, good boy. Good to see you again.
Good evening. I see you're out for an evening at the theatre too.
Oh, quite. Yes, we're great fans of the local company.
Is this the wife?
Oh yes. Mildred, say hello. This is Mr. Oh, I don't know if I caught your name last night.
No, I'm not sure you did. Barnard Hardcastle.
Mildred, this is Mr. Hardcastle. He's we really don't know each other very well, but he seems like a good, solid chap.
Yes, we shared a drink the other evening. I was really looking to continue our conversation for a brief moment as we wait to take our seats for the evening's entertainment.
Well, I'm sure we've got a moment. His wife has just sort of turned around and kind of... She looked mildly peeved to be sort of interrupted with her conversation by her husband. But she does sort of gives you a sort of... Pleased to meet you, Mr. Hardcastle, and then immediately turns back to her conversation. So
the old yes, dear, whatever.
Yeah. She goes, it looks like we've got a minute or two. Yes. You heard any more news about the... He sort of lowers his voice a little conspiratorially, sort of. You heard any more news about the church happenings you alluded to?
Joining him in hushed tones. No, I can't say that I have. I was really hoping that you might have more insights on it, but it's... What have you spent the day doing? Just working, I suppose?
Oh, yes, quite. Those those forms weren't stamped themselves, if you know what I'm saying. So no, I kept an eye on the paper, but I'm a bigger fan of the Tom Butler as the next man, but they really ought to just keep harping on about this fate.
Yes, it seems a little strange that the local media would take no interest at all in events, but I suppose they're not looking to rouse the local populace into any kind of panic or furore.
Well, you say that like it's anything more than Mr. Wilkins and his assistant. They run the paper, but it's not exactly the Times of London down here. It's the Times.
Are you particularly familiar with Mr. Wilkins?
I went to school with the lad. Yes.
Oh, I suppose this is being a small town. Everybody knows everybody, but
yeah,
that's a lot of history with that gentleman.
Yes. Bloody awful at rugby, but kick a football like no one's business.
I wouldn't know about such things. My youth was spent on other things.
Yes. Brother died in the war, I believe, but I think we've all lost somebody, didn't we?
Or something.
Yes. Quite so.
Allowing the tone to lower, notably, Barnard is going to use this as his opportunity to sort of give him a knowing look and say, well, keep your ear to the ground. I should be interested to hear if you know anything more of the events that are occurring in town. I should expect everybody that's even vaguely aware of what's happened would want to know more of what's going on.
So, quite so, yes. He taps the side of his nose and, yeah. I'll keep my ear to the ground, don't you worry, sir.
And with that, Barnard gives a nod, wanders back to the others and says to them, well, it seems my associate over there doesn't know anything more than we do, although he has told me that he'll keep his ear to the ground.
Yes, perhaps a local might be able to tease more information out.
At this point, the doors to the auditorium open, and a sort of man dressed similar sort of clothes to the waiters sort of rings a small bell and says, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to come and take your seats, the performance will be starting in 10 minutes. And people begin to sort of make their way into the auditorium itself. None of you, despite two of you having been to the backstage area, you haven't really had a good look at the interior so far, but it's quite, for such a small town, it's quite a sort of well sort of appointed hall. There's some quite interesting sort of we call them carvings, engravings, that sort of thing. The stage itself is flanked by two kind of sort of mock kind of Greek pillars, and there is at the moment there is a quite large curtain covering the stage itself. Rows of seats go sort of. It's a fucking theatre.
It's a fucking theatre. You started so well. You were so committed
I gave up
to the
halfway through.
description, and then you thought, fuck it, you've seen him before.
You guys know how chairs be.
How
There's a
chairs
ceiling and
be?
walls. There is a floor. You are walking on it.
There are lights, carpets.
There's no fucking leg room.
They appear to have constructed some sort of ceiling. You find a trio of seats, and it's not a huge amount of leg room, but you manage to get yourselves situated quite comfortably. You would put, looking around, that it is maybe 3/4 full. For an opening night, you would have thought that maybe, especially with the reputation, Alistair, that you know of the company, that it might have been a bit busier. But thinking back, you can remember Abraham. It sounded like it might have been a joke at the time, but he did say about the audience being thinned out even more, so maybe they weren't expecting it to be too busy.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't want to put thoughts in your head, but you know what I mean, just sort of... It doesn't appear to be full in here, is what I'm saying.
Well, based on what we've learned about people disappearing, it doesn't surprise me that he might have actually been half joking but half serious, and maybe he did know something weird was going on.
Okay, so you're seated for a few minutes, and then from the side of the stage out walks a man that you know, Alistair, to be the director. He's got a big smile on his face, and there's a polite round of applause as he steps to the front of the stage and says, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming to tonight's premiere performance of William Shakespeare's The Tempest, performed by your very own Twine-on-Sea players. We're so pleased that you're all in attendance tonight for what promises to be an unforgettable theatrical experience. We hope you all enjoy the show. Again, there's a polite applause, and he walks off the stage. The house lights come down. There is a couple of moments of darkness. Sound of a crashing cymbal and a bright flash of light. It's the closest that they could do for thunder and lightning. And two figures walk out onto the stage, both sort of dressed kind of as sailors.
Bosun!
Here, master. What cheer?
Good. Speak to the mariners. Filthy yelly, or we run ourselves aground. Bestir, bestir!
He walks off, and several other sailor-dressed people walk on stage. Hey, me hearts, cheerly, cheerly, my hearts, yer, yer, take in the topsail, tend to the master's whistle, blow till thou wind burst thy wind, if room enough. So, as the scene goes on, you watch as the king of Naples' ship is sunk by a sudden storm, taking with it the usurping Duke of Milan, the son of the King of Naples, and many others. We cut from there to a scene on the beach of a small island where, Alistair, you recognise, stepping onto the stage, your friend Abraham, dressed in a wizardly robe with a young lady playing his daughter. Throughout the scene...
Which scene is it?
Well, we're not going to read it.
Oh, you're not reading it? Okay.
Yeah. We can read it if you want.
I was just double checking.
Do you want to play Miranda?
No. No.
So yeah, throughout it we're introduced to Abraham's part. You're very impressed with him in his even in his old age. He's got quite a good sort of booming theatre voice.
Lie there, my heart, wipe thou thine eyes, have comfort. The direful spectacle of the wreck, which touched the very virtue of compassion in thee, I have with such provision in mine art so safely ordered that there is no soul, no, not so much perdition as a hair, but into any creature in the vessel which thou heardst cry, which thou sawest sink. Sit down, for thou must now no further.
As the scene progresses, becomes clear he has been deposed from his rightful position as the Duke of Milan and stranded on this island with his daughter. It's a well-trodden story at this point. What stands out to you, though, weirdly, is the role of, as the play continues, the role of Caliban, a sort of misformed kind of creature, the son of a witch who was on the island and who is now a slave of Prospero. Caliban, that is, not the witch. And you're not quite sure why, but there's something about the portrayal of the actor playing him that is really kind of, I don't know, it's kind of, you're finding it a little unsettling. The makeup is quite good, especially for the Caliban role, and it feels like, looking at him, they've done something to his hands to make his fingers feel like a little bit more like kind of claws a little bit, and you wonder, you don't know whether it's just because of the body you've recently seen, but something about it is just unsettling you a little.
All three of us, sorry.
I will leave that up to you. I'm putting that out there. I was saying it more to Alistair because you were the first to sort of see the body, but yeah.
I suppose if we're looking at the costume that he's wearing, would Sway be able to tell if it was like the material or if it could have been faked at all?
Sure, yeah, this would be...
Because I do have something in disguise.
I was just looking at that, yeah. Yeah, we could use a disguise check to sort of... So you're using it more to kind of... Yeah.
What, to tell if it's a disguise or not, or if it's actually real.
Okay, to sort of... So you're kind of appraising the... Like,
yeah.
Okay, alright.
handiwork.
Make a disguise check for me then.
Okay.
27. So yeah, I mean you've got a 50 in disguise, so that's very yeah. It looks to the casual eye, it looks like some of the best kind of stage makeup that you've seen. But as you look closer, it is still clearly a prosthetic. It's not a, it is a real person underneath that. This isn't. Yeah, it is a disguise. It is it is a piece of makeup. But I don't know, something about it just hit you as like it's just unsettling. Something about I don't know.
Maybe the design of it, maybe, or the
kind
of like the labyrinth kind of like Goblin King, like that kind of feeling.
Yeah, the proportions are weird, and like I don't know, it's just something in the back of your head is sort of setting it off as like this is.
So they're wearing a Jim Henson, but
yeah, it's a little
like
uncanny
Dark
valley
Crystal.
sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a little unnatural and unsettling.
And this feeling of sort of unease is compounded with a again, it's a very good performance, but just something about it is just striking you as a little odd. And Caliban gives this speech. Says, "I must eat my dinner. This island's mine by Sycorax my mother, which thou takest from me. When thou camest first, thou strokest me, and madest much of me. Wouldst give me water with berries in't, and teach me how to name the bigger light, and how the less that burn by day and night. And then I loved thee, and showed thee all the qualities of the isle, the fresh springs, brine pits, barren place, and fertile. Cursed be I that did so. All the charms of Sycorax, toads, beetles, bats, light on you. For I am all the subjects that you have, which first was mine own king, and here you stymie in this hard rock, whilst you do keep from me the rest of the island." The scenes continue, and you're not quite sure what it is, whether it's a combination of the performance and the costume. It just seems to sort of put you all a little kind of ill at ease, let's say. You can't quite put a finger on it, but like something about it is sort of resonating with all that you've experienced over the past few days, if that makes sense.
Taken by the tone of this, Barnard's going to have at least one or two swigs of the gin that's in his pocket and try and surreptitiously do this so that nobody sees him doing it. But he's very much tense, and given what's on his mind already, what's being said is putting him into a strange place mentally.
Sway would know the play, but I'm assuming she's maybe not done the play very often.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd imagine that she'd know of like the context of like the whole thing, but even that his performance is taking it maybe just to the very like fringe.
He's really kind of embodying the character in a way that you haven't really seen before. For such a sort of provincial kind of group of players, you're all very, despite the sort of weirdness, you're very enraptured with it, and the audience seems to be as well. The third act ends, and as the curtain comes across, the director returns to the stage and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, we will return after a short intermission. Thank you very much." As you spend the 10 minutes, however you want, stay in your seats or whatever. Actually, we can play that out if you like. I'm kind of...
Yeah, maybe discuss.
I don't want to step on any moments that might...
Yeah.
Sway's just going to look between the two of the men, and I'm just like, is anyone else feeling
Unsettled?
Quite.
I just have a strange sense of foreboding all of a sudden. I mean, the character, it's very
Realistic?
interesting portrayal of Caliban.
Yes, I know what you mean.
It's very intense.
That doesn't cover it as far as I'm concerned. That entire scene gave me the willies.
Barnard, are you alright?
I find myself plagued by thoughts of my friend Jenkins, and the subject matter of this play is not helping at all, let alone the performance of that strange little man.
Okay. So, the interval passes fairly quickly. Or, did you leave your seats during the interval? Or?
We stayed.
No, I think
we stayed.
it'd be too dumbstruck to move.
As the lights go down again, the curtain rolls back, and your eyes are suddenly drawn to the top of the curtain as it seems to catch on something as it's pulling back, and from behind the curtain there's the unmistakable shape of a person falling from above, who lands on the stage with a thud.
The devil?
Oh, sweet lord.
Oh.
There's a lot of gasps throughout the crowd. A scream from a few rows back. You look around to see it's Mildred, the guy's wife. And the house lights come up as the director rushes to the stage and checks the body. He sort of looks up wildly and sort of... James! Stage hand, he's dead. He's been missing since yesterday.
Good grief.
People start rushing for the exit, and there's a big commotion.
Abraham mentioned someone was missing when I spoke to him this morning. What the devil was he doing above the stage?
You can see even from where you're a few rows back, you're not right up front. He does appear to... It doesn't look fresh. He's been there for some time. But he's got the unmistakable look of a large puncture wound in his torso.
Does he smell at all?
Oh, yeah, it stings.
Okay. And I'm just gonna cover my mouth and nose and sit back into my seat and be like, oh, dear God!
Can I get sanity checks from all three of you?
Certainly.
How do we do a sanity check?
It's a D100, and you have to get under... Well, for you, it's under 70.
For me, it's 64, I think.
Yeah, and Barnard's is slightly lower as well, because you've done one before.
And once again, I failed my role big time.
Oh, wow, okay.
93. Oh, speaking of failing big time.
Well.
93 from Barnard, 99 from Madam Sway.
48.
48. So you've passed yours.
Phew.
You still need to go down by 1.
Okay. So
You 2.
I'll change that to 63 later.
Okay.
Just how crazy am I?
Well, here's where things might start to get weird, because if you lose more than 5 sanity points in a single thing, then you suffer from temporary insanity.
Oh, God.
So I have to roll... You lose 1 anyway, but I also have to roll 1d4 plus 1 to get the additional on that.
Okay.
So I'm going to roll my d4. That is a 2. So you also lose an additional 3. So you've lost 4 total. 4 total points from your sanity.
Is that Madam Sway?
Madam Sway and Barnard.
Okay.
Alistair's lost 1 because he passed. So Madam Sway is now down to 66. Barnard, you're now down to... What are you down to?
45?
45, okay. So you both just about managed to not lose it. But you're...
I think...
yeah, you're definitely...
The whiskey's coming out now.
Yeah.
Breaking out in a cold sweat, Barnard is kind of shot to his feet and is shooting his eyes around the room, trying to see how everybody else is reacting. Is there somebody in the room that is looking arch, or is it in some way, shape or form kind of looking on in a way that's incongruous to what everybody else is doing?
That's a good question. Just make an intelligence check.
Okay. Wow. My luck is really not good today. 99.
93 and then a 99. I mean, yeah, no, you in all the confusion and that, you know, you've got a mild state of panic going on. You can't really notice that. You're just sort of people are leaving, people are running. A couple of people are sort of running for the stage, but in a distressed way, not in a kind of like, oh, you know, we want to help sort of way, not in a sinister way from the looks of things. You see more of the backstage crew and cast run onto the stage as well, but you can't determine anybody's motive not with a 99.
Okay, well, wide-eyed and stressed then, and Barnard's just going to exclaim, "What the devil is going on here?"
Okay, that's going to do it for this episode. As I said in the intro, we'll hopefully be back next week with another bonus world-building episode for you all. Our next story episode, episode 48, continuing where we left off today, will be available as usual in 2 weeks' time on Thursday the 11th of April. So we hope you'll all tune back in for that. In the meantime, you can get in contact with us on Twitter and Facebook, both of which we are at PretendWithDice. You can also email us at pretendingwithdice@outlook.com. If you're an iTunes user, it'd be really great if you could leave us a rating and review. It all helps us to find new listeners, and we'd really just love to hear what you think of the podcast. So for now, that's our show. I hope you all enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.